Omar Berrada is already making moves that will change everything at United. In today's video, we're going to break down what he's doing, what's going to be the result of what he is doing, and what is just happening at United in general going into the latest news. So please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. Obviously, if you aren't aware, Dan Ashworth is now basically left Newcastle. That's been confirmed, and there's a feeling he will go to United. He's agreed to join United. There's now talks on compensation. There's a feeling Dan Ashworth will be going to United within, the next week or so, and Dan Ashworth will be Omar Berrada's first big appointment, along with Jason Wilcox. Now, I just saw this thing from Henry Winter on Dan Ashworth, and he said, recruitment expert at leading Premier League club on Dan Ashworth said this: if he's sharp, he will have a database compiled with his time at England, Brighton, and now Newcastle. The club-sensitive data will be specific to transfer targets for the latter two, but in terms of generalised player data, what he'll have at his disposal is enormous. And I think there's a reason why Eddie Howe was like, oh, we don't want Dan Ashworth going to United and knowing our secrets. There's a reason Newcastle are kicking him out with his passwords for all of these systems, because he's got a lot of data, a lot of information from properly run clubs like Brighton and Newcastle, who've done better scouting than United with info, and he's really going to help with the recruitment side of things. But interestingly, it's been reported that Omar Berrada wants to bring in Jason Wilcox to work with Dan Ashworth on the recruitment side of things. Omar Berrada worked with Jason Wilcox at Manchester City. So who is Jason Wilcox on this appointment, and what could this change, and what's Omar Berrada trying to do with Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, and what other things is Omar Berrada going to do at United? We're going to dive into. So Jason Wilcox, to give you a summary, he is the current director of football of Southampton, but he was the former Man United Academy director of Manchester City. I think he worked as the academy director from 2017 to 2023. Before that, he was actually Manchester City's under-18 coach, and he'd led them to 2 FA Youth Cup finals in 2015 and 16, and would win the league with them in 2016. So interestingly, Jason Wilcox, who's going to come into United as somewhat of a recruitment role under Ashworth, is a footballing guy. He's someone that's worked as a coach. He's someone that's worked as a sporting director, academy director. He's a footballing guy. It's not like we're bringing bankers in anymore. We've actually got someone that has coached football, that has experience in football, that is good at his job, that's worked his way up doing this role. His role of academy director, the main purpose of that goal was to basically bring players in the academy through to playing the style of play that Pep wants to play with the first team. So mirroring Pep's philosophy in the academy. So when those players came from the academy to the first team, they were used to sort of the tactics, the way they wanted to play, and it would be easier. And players that obviously that came into Manchester City as his time as academy director was Oscar Bob, Phil Foden, Rico Lewis, and Cole Palmer, all playing senior games for City that he'd obviously found and they'd come through while he was academy director. But people realised this: as academy director, he also had to sort of look at players and recruit young players to Manchester City and look at players to bring into the academy, which is something that Manchester City have done an incredible good job in terms of their recruitment. Because even though a lot of the players they recruit for the academy don't make it for the first team, they still end up selling them on for mad money. I still think Cole Palmer only played a couple of games and they got over 40 million for him, which has been worth it for Chelsea. James Trafford got sold more. He went to League One on loan, and Burnley paid more money for James Trafford than Crystal Palace did for Dean Henderson. He's very good at bringing in academy talents and selling them. Even Lavia to Southampton, which he even got more money on because they have buyback clauses, sell-on clauses, all of that as well. And he achieved a lot of success with Manchester City. And when he was the academy director, which was looking at young talent to bring to the academy and mirroring the academy of the first team, City won 4 successive titles in that time. In terms of players that he's known for developing and working with, Foden, Sancho, Palmer, Lavia, Brahim Diaz, Rico Lewis, D-Lap, we could get more into it. Mukati's actually been really, really good this season as well. At Sheffield United, probably their best player. So what is Jason Wilcox doing right now? He's actually the current director of football at Southampton, who got relegated, and his job is to bring them back up. It looks like Southampton will get promoted. They look quite comfortably ahead of the other players. He brought in players like Shea Charles, Ryan Fraser, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who's looking like a really, really good signing there as well. Even managed to get like David Brooks and other people in to help them in the summer transfer window. And David Brooks came in the winter, who could be a good signing there to help Southampton get promoted. And Russell Martin's been doing a really, really good job at Southampton. It looks like they'll get automatic promotion. But he's now rumoured to be in talks with United to come in and work under Dan Ashworth, and could even be at United before Dan Ashworth. Now, Wilcox's role at Manchester United would involve him working with Dan Ashworth on the recruitment side of things, being in more of a recruitment-based role. Obviously, he was director of football at Southampton. He was doing recruitment there. He's done a lot of academy work at Man City. There's an expectation that he will also work alongside Nick Cox and have an input into the academy. Nick Cox has obviously done a fantastic job with the United Academy and being the director and development, but he might be doing a bit of the recruitment side for the academy, sort of implementing the philosophy and the recruitment side on the younger side of players, and working with Ashworth to give them that assistance in recruitment with Ashworth's database. And right now, United under-18s are currently unbeaten in the Premier League this season, and most of them have just turned 16. They've got a brilliant academy that he will help develop alongside Nick Cox, but it also helps to do recruitment for that academy alongside Nick Cox, but also help Ashworth with finer details in recruitment. And he's obviously worked with Omar Berrada, and it said that Omar Berrada was sort of keen to work with Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox to create that new Man United setup. And I don't know why that's just repeated there, but what now are the changes that Omar Berrada's implementing at United? Omar Berrada is starting to implement changes at United. We've already seen, before I even get into my list, what changes have we already seen? The fact that we went and got Omar Berrada, bish bash boss, done, signed. That wasn't Omar Berrada, but we got that deal done quick. That's a change Ineos have made. But we see that United are going right in for Ashworth. The day that the Premier League deal was sort of agreed, ratified, the Premier League ratified Ineos' deal to take over United, we went in for Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth resigned from Newcastle. Bosh. Man United aren't mucking about. Man United are going in, they're getting deals done quick. They're ready to get stuff done quick. And I'm sure Omar Berrada is also part of that, but that was mostly influenced by Brailsford and Ratcliffe. But if you look at the changes that are going to be implemented in United, Omar Berrada is very clear with, you've got 2 seasons to prove you're good enough. If not, you're out. At Man United, we give players 3-4 years. We let them basically run down their contract and then sell them for the bare minimum because they're not good enough. They're on high wages. We let them run down their contract. Omar Berrada's like, you've got 2 seasons to prove yourself out. I assume he'll probably want to sell someone like Anthony. Whether we can sell him or not, we'll have to wait and see. It's believed he'll cut down the wage bill. Martial, Varane, Anthony, Casemiro, Maguire, Sancho, all at massive risk. All the players on over 150k a week on massive risk of being sold, particularly those players. Obviously, Varane's been rumoured a lot to leave. Hopefully, he doesn't. But what he'll do and what's needed to be done at Manchester United the last 10 years, and I've been begging Man United to do, is proper recruitment. Ten Hag is going to have less powers over transfers. Obviously, Ten Hag's going to have a say if he's here, but Ten Hag was having maybe too much power over transfers. You know, we've had managers that have had too little power over transfers, and we've had managers that have too much power over transfers. We need that balance. Ten Hag will still have a say in transfers, but he's going to be given less power to spend 85 million on Anthony and 60 million on Mount, because there's proper footballing people that are going to be doing that and be in more control. But also, we won't be overspending on players. Omar Berrada 60 million on Harry Maguire. They had 60 million put away for a company replacement, and they said if Maguire's over 60 million, we look elsewhere. They got Ruben Diaz. If Man United probably would have had 50 million put away for a right winger, they say 85 million for Anthony. Omar Berrada would have said no, we'll look elsewhere, and they would have got maybe Elise for 35 million if Omar Berrada was here 2 years ago. He doesn't overspend for his position. Man United needed a centre back, they needed a striker, they needed a goalkeeper, and they needed a midfielder in the summer window. They only got 3 of those. They didn't get the centre back because they overspent on Højlund, they'd overspent on Mount, they'd overspent on Onana. They must have a set budget for goalkeeper, striker, midfielder, so they would have had the money there to go for Kim and Jae in the summer. Omar Berrada will make sure they would do that. Dan Ashworth coming in has a long-term approach. As I did a video the other day, I said Ten Hag has signed 16 players, only 6 of them haven't been loans or players over 30, and 3 of those 6 players have just been injured this whole time. So he's only really had 3 signings come in and make an impact, and that is Onana, Højlund, and of course Anthony. That was a long-term signing, just hasn't been good enough. Dan Ashworth will have a long-term approach of signing players aged 20 to 25 that are proven to be good but can become great, that he scouted intensely, that he knows are good players and can become great. And these are some of the names that have also been linked to Manchester United. You know, obviously Tell, Lenny Euro, Branthwaite, Elise, some really, really talented players being linked to United already. Obviously, those could change once Dan Ashworth's approved, once Jason Wilcox is done, and they're 100% in. There's definitely going to be changes made, but this seems to be the approach United are taking: stopping signing players to sell shirts, stopping panic loans, stopping signing players over 30. Dan Ashworth wants to create a vision, that Brailsford wants to create a vision, Omar Berrada wants to create a vision identity of how they want United to play. And when they've established that vision identity, Dan Ashworth will then do the research. Do the players have the right attitude? I watched some behind the scenes of Newcastle, and Dan Ashworth was getting character references for Anthony Gordon, Newcastle signed Anthony Gordon. Dan Ashworth will be told what they want to do, how they want to play. Dan Ashworth will then do the research about the players that can play that way, get players 20 to 25 years old that are good, that can become superstars. Everyone at United will have a clear role. Something that's crazy is that no one knows exactly what John Murt's role is, exactly what Richard Arnold's role is. It is CEO, it is sporting director, but no one knows who has the final call or who makes this decision on that. Everyone at United is now going to have a clear role, but there's going to be communication between Brailsford and Ratcliffe, Omar Berrada, Dan Ashworth. The Glazers don't have any communication really with Arnold and Murtagh, the bare minimum, and because the Glazers don't communicate with Arnold and Murtagh, they don't really know what the long-term goal is in their job, and then there's lack of communication between Arnold and Murtagh and Ten Hag, and that runs down the club. And I think that's one of the reasons the club is such a mess, is the lack of communication at the top. I think just basically goes all the way down. And then of course Manchester United are going to make changes to the stadium, the facility, and as expected, that will be done soon. Obviously planning permission is out, but also the reason I feel like you can take this serious and you can take what Omar Berrada wants to do to United seriously and the changes he wants to do seriously is the fact that Omar Berrada's joined United, so he knows he's going to be given power and control to make changes. Dan Ashworth is leading Newcastle, the richest club in the world, for United. The fact the executives are leaving their roles and they were already in good roles to join United, to join this project, is a statement that we could be going the right way. And I think when you look at United right now, there is a few players to build around: Maino, Højlund, Martinez, Garnacho. I think Delos is showing he's got potential. We know how good Bruno can be, but he's been hit and miss. And we know how good Rashford could be, but Rashford's one of those, if he's got to prove himself next season or he's out, they could be players that we build around. And what I found interesting about Højlund was he's so keen to improve. He actually requested one-to-one chat with Robin van Persie. He wants to improve. He's so keen, and I love that. And I think we need to sign players with the right attitude. We need to sign players that can become superstars. We need to sign players that are going to suit the way the manager wants to play. And we need to have a long-term vision, identity. And that is the changes that Omar Berrada wants to make, while keeping us within budget, while getting rid of players that weren't good for 1 to 2 years, while cutting down the wage bill. Smash a like, smash the subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.